This is Entrepreneur Radio, maximizing your personal and business results by leading with your heart. With your host, Terri Levine. Listen every week as Terri tackles the topics that will help you become a successful heart-centered entrepreneur. Be sure to read the blog posts at www.heartrepreneur.com/blog. Come back often and add this show to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe in iTunes. You can also follow Terri on Twitter at MentorTerri and on Facebook.com/Heartrepreneur Terri Levine. And now here's Terri.
Hi, Terri Levine here from Heartrepreneur, and excited to have you here at Heartrepreneur Radio, Heartrepreneur TV. And I just want you to take a moment and I want you to think about today. What is your biggest challenge or frustration in business? What's not quite right yet? As Heartrepreneurs, we're here to keep making those things more right. So we're hoping past episodes have helped you. Today's episode will help you. And continuous listening to my incredible guests will continue to bring you value, value, value. That's what Heartrepreneurs do. We're all about passing it forward and serving each other. So I want you to take a minute and I want you to think about the day that you're born. You're this little innocent baby, right? And even a baby learns to negotiate what they want. Now just think about this. Just yesterday, I was observing a toddler where I am who was going around a swimming pool and wanted ice cream and was screaming for the ice cream. And then later was just trying everything and going from person to person, but incredibly loud screaming. And the mom wanted to have the child be quiet. So what did she do? Eventually she gave in to the screaming, right? And you've probably seen this in your own life. Well, hopefully as we get a little bit older and wiser, we go, well, these toddler tantrums probably aren't that professional. They're probably not so cool. And so we come up with other techniques, other ways to achieve what it is we want. We're going to talk about some of these things with my amazing guest today. I want to introduce you to Karen Green. Karen, thanks so much for being here at Heartrepreneur Radio and TV.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here. It's going to be good fun.
Yeah, it is going to be good fun. So to begin with, tell us a little bit about your journey, how you got to where you are today. I'm always very curious of that.
Yeah, of course. Thanks. Yeah, I've always been in retail in some form or other. So my father ran a department store in England. And I think I started at 5 in a little fashion show, and I've got cute photographs of me walking along the catwalk in little clothes, and then worked there as a Saturday girl, learning how to fold jumpers and be nice to people. And in those days, the customer was always right, whereas nowadays, I'm not so sure customer service is quite that strong, probably more in the US than it certainly is in France. And so then I went to university, studied retail marketing and buyer behavior, went to work for one of the big UK grocers, Tesco, then for a pharmaceutical company, Boots, who also has a lot of retailing, and was a buyer for a number of years. And then towards the end of my career within Boots, I crossed over and started selling back to those buyers. So at the time that was toiletries, cosmetics, and then I moved into the food industry and spent about 10 years working on selling everything from turkeys to sushi to Christmas puddings, a real variety of different products. And then about it's coming up for 5 years ago now, I decided I wanted to move to France, which is where I live now. The kind of roles I was doing very hands-on. So I wanted to do a consultancy business. I'd seen a lot of companies struggle, a lot of entrepreneurs struggle when dealing with the big corporates. So I set up my business Food Mentor in October 16 to help food companies primarily, although now I'm finding I'm working with a lot more, a wider range of entrepreneurs, but to help them to create profitable sales growth through learning how to sell better, pitch better, and negotiate. better, so that we're getting better deals, so actually making money, rather than going, oh, well, it'd be nice to work, supply them because, it's good exposure. And I'm like, well, that's not really going to make us any money. And we've all done it. I'm sure I've done it myself, where you go, yeah, I'll do that for a pro bono, because I'm sure. And sometimes it's really good exposure. And sometimes you realize you're just working for nothing. So that's, I've been doing that for like 3.5 years, and I've got an amazing raft, mostly women, I have to be honest. I don't specifically seek out women, but mostly women entrepreneurs. I think women are more open to looking for help and support. That's not to say I haven't got some great male clients, but and we do everything from pitching to supermarkets. I'm doing a massive £250,000 investment raise with a client at the moment, and trying to work with another client to keep them in the retail businesses and not get kicked out. So it's quite an interesting mix of clients, but it all comes back at the end of the day to that kind of building relationships with corporations and how we do that.
That's really why I was so excited to have you on the show, because Entrepreneur is all about ending transactional sales and doing business in a heart-to-heart way, which is relational, right? And so I just love this. So, the tantrum thing, right? It's so funny because I knew you were coming on the show today, and here I am observing this little child. And I mean, it was a full-on high-pitched screaming. And eventually there she was off getting her ice cream, and I was just laughing. So I do know sometimes, in my experience, business owners almost do have tantrums. I've seen them take out tantrums on social media, and it's sort of different than a screaming child, but it is screaming, pay attention to me, buy my stuff, buy my stuff. What do you have to say to those business owners who might be watching and listening?
I think one of the problems with negotiation, and one of the reasons clients bring me on actually, is when it's your business, you become very emotional. So if I compare how well I negotiate for my clients compared to sometimes how well I negotiate fees, I'm definitely better when I'm not emotionally involved. So the toddler tantrum is probably born out of the psychology of insecurity and not knowing how to do it. And I used to be that child. I mean, my mother used to tell me I would lie on the floor in the hall and kick my legs and scream and scream and scream, and nothing would happen. And then I would write a little note saying sorry and stick it under the door, which I always thought was quite cute, actually. So I think what we have to do is to take a step back as entrepreneurs and not do the screaming and the shouting. And there is a degree of do as you would be done by. So think about how would you like to be approached. But, and this is the really big but, and this is what I kind of focus a lot of my energy, and I've done a little mini book on negotiation, and this is what my little matrix, which is we all receive information in different ways. And I think we kind of miss out on that thought process. So your guy who's going, buy this is going to be coming from his point of view. So he's going to be very outgoing, he's going to be very extrovert, he wants to shout about his product. But if you're actually quite an introvert person, you're quite a quiet person, you're not creating rapport. And that first thing you've got to do is create some form of rapport. And I think from an advert, that's really difficult if your ad is just going out to everybody. Yeah. Because you can't target it. And if you can't target it, you can't message it in the right way each time. So what would my advice be? It's to take a step back, start to look at the person that you're selling to. And I suppose in a lot of ways specialize in one-to-one. So I tend to look at, I have this 3x3 matrix, which I came up with it one day. I love it. I think it works really well to explain it. So if you think of a spectrum on the bottom where you've got the buyer, and then you've got their corporation at the bottom, and then at the top, you've got what is fixed and what is changeable. And within that, if you start to think about how the buyer or the person that you're selling to could just be an individual. And I'm sure some of your clients and some of my clients are individuals. So you're just selling to an individual. But if you're selling to someone who's part of a corporate, the corporation's values and requirements and KPIs are really key, as is the buyer's personality. So you've got those interactions to start thinking about. And then some of those things are fixed. So for example, and I know I've studied a lot of psychology, and all the psychologists on here are going to go, no, we don't agree. To some extent, your personality is fixed. And in probably the time scale you're going to negotiate a deal with a buyer, it's fixed. And I know that it can be plastic, but let's go with it. So one of the things that I am a massive fan of, and I don't know if you've come across it, is disc profiling.
Yes.
So disc profiling, as you know, dominant, influencing, creative, and steadiness. But the great thing that I've found is this tool called Crystal Knows. And Crystal Knows, it's crystalknows.com. Okay, we can supply it in the show notes. It's a really, really good little tool. It goes on LinkedIn and it profiles you or the person you're after. You don't have to be LinkedIn with them. So for example, and I will take you as an example, and you tell me if I'm right or if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Crystal Knows sees you as an initiator. So if I came along to you and I was going to negotiate something with you, maybe a deal, I would not give you a fixed deal. I would say, well, what do you think? What kind of things are you interested in? How could we make this work together? And I'd be using this softer language, appealing to your creativity. If maybe we got into conflict, again, I'd think, do you think we could try something else? Do you think a different angle might work? What do you think?
Interesting.
How does that resonate? I don't know you. I've never met you before, but this is...
Well, first of all, I've never heard of this. So I'm checking it out, crystalknows.com.
You should.
The second thing is that really does nail me, because I really do prefer to like have a conversation and figure out how can we work together, best collaborate, be creative. That is exactly me. So that's fantastic, because if I was talking with someone and I had that information, I would know their style and I'd be able to negotiate with them. I've never heard of this tool. You don't have to. I love things like this. Awesome.
Well, I found it about a year ago, and I have to say it's worked for me for winning business, because where I've had clients and I've said, well, you probably struggle with with selling because of this, and they've gone, how do you know? I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah, you're really good. You're really good. This is brilliant. You know, it's so fascinating. We're having this conversation and there's synchronicity. My team talked to somebody maybe a month ago who they felt was a good fit for a program, and they extended our what I'll call regular offer. And the person came back and kind of tried to negotiate something else. And a couple of members of my team were like, oh my gosh, no, he's trying to negotiate something else. And now that I understand more about myself here, thanks to you, I said, well, wait a minute. Let me have a conversation with him and let me see why he's trying to negotiate and what he's looking for, and if there's a value proposition in it. And in fact, there was. He was willing to literally give my company 50% of his revenue growth if we worked with him in a creative way. And it was interesting to me. My team was like, all of them threw their hands up and let him go. We don't want him. And I said, well, there's a reason he's trying to negotiate. So let me chat with him and figure it out. And it ends up being, you know, he feels this is in his favor. We feel it's in our favor. So it's a great coming together of how can we do this together? And I didn't understand that about my style and why I was so willing to, no, let's get on the phone with him. I just learned something amazing, Sharon. Thank you.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I think the challenge is when you come across, I used to have a buyer, I really didn't like him. I really struggled. And it was during some tough negotiations, and it was only after I'd stopped working with him that I found Crystal knows, and I actually did the analysis and worked out what the problem was and why I'm actually quite a red personality. I'm straight to the point. I want to get it done. Let's do it now. This is the numbers. Why are you not agreeing with me now? Because it's obvious. It's the right thing to do. He's an analyst. He's a blue personality. He wants to look at all the details. He got me to analyze the daily temperature and weather correlating with sushi sales over a 3-year period. I was like, why?
Wow.
Anyway, it's just an example, but that's the most powerful tool for me, to have a look at how you analyze somebody you're going to be selling to. And we've only got half an hour here, so we can only do a snapshot of that, but that's the first piece, because I think there's other techniques that I teach, and there's another one which I'm sure you're aware of, where people learn in different ways. So there's visual, auditory, kinesthetic, gustatory, I can never pronounce them all, olfactory, which you don't get that much. But the difficulty we have now is a lot of us are working in this environment where we're on Zoom or we're remote. So we can't hand over something for them to get hold of. I can't give you a product to taste because you're thousands of miles away. So we have to think of other ways to get that rapport. And whilst, yes, auditory and the use of language is the same, this baby is my favorite. So yeah, so that forms one chunk of it. So the first thing is, and that's the piece which I think you can't change, and then you start to get into the other stuff, and that's all about research. We're so blessed now, there's so much information around, and you can start to understand what that buyer is looking for, what that person is looking for, how they're interacting with that corporation. Life is changing so quickly at the moment. There's so many opportunities, but so many challenges. So the more research we can do before we get into a negotiation, the better, because knowledge is power. And I can assure you, most of my clients, I'm going to say not all, because actually the buyers, certainly in the UK, are very highly trained, will go in much better prepared to make a negotiation and do a deal than the buyer is. Especially your regular person. And you can use this technique in buying cars and all sorts of things if you work on it.
Comes in handy. So I'm going to throw a scenario at you, because I had a client ask me this a couple of weeks ago. So she was offering her high ticket program, which I think is 20 or 25,000. And the person she offered it to said, I only have, and I think it was 5,000. I don't exactly recall, but I only have $5,000. So I'd like to put down $5,000, and then you can prove to me that you can do what you say you're going to do, and then I'll pay you based on a contingency fee. And she was so turned off by that and opposed to that. And I wanted her to be more open to the possibility. How would you have handled that? I'm curious.
It's an interesting one that we get quite a lot, actually. I've got a couple of people I collaborate with, and we get this kind of, we'll pay you some retainer, but we want to see it on results. Okay. I think to some extent, there is a view that if you've got to that point, you probably haven't sold it well enough to get the person to really understand the value that you're delivering. But if you're trying, so I don't particularly enjoy doing it, but if I find a client who I really rate their products, I might actually do some hands-on work for them.
Okay.
And there it's unproven. So, are you going to sell my stuff or are you not going to sell? I don't know. So sometimes I do a deal. So sometimes I'll look at an opportunity to say, okay, a lot of my businesses are quite young. So I'll say, well, you can pay me a retainer. And that retainer is enough in my heart to say I'm being paid enough. Yeah. And then the rest to me is what I should be paying, but it's bunts. So okay. I'll often, and if you go back to the first principles of negotiation, have you got anything that's valuable to them that's cheap for you? So
great.
So if she's if he's saying, well, I'm going to give you 5,000, that's great, that's cash, I want cash, but what can she give to him that's maybe more value that he might be prepared to pay for? Or like your other client, what could he do for her that might be able, and I'm not a great believer in bartering.
Me either. Good.
But sometimes negotiations are not just about money. There's all the other elements that you have to drop down into. So that would be my advice.
Glad you said that.
And sometimes you have to stick to your guns and go, that's the deal's the deal.
Yeah, I love that. And while I'm in agreement with you, like I'm not the biggest fan of bartering. I think very often people aren't all in a barter. There have been some situations over the course of doing business where I really wanted what the other person was willing to provide me. Like really wanted. And in that case, it made sense. Sometimes it's, I'll give you an example. I had a client many, many years ago. She said, well, I want to be in your, I think, $15,000 program, and I'll barter you a massage a month. And I'm like, a massage for $125 isn't close in the value proposition. So for me, it was a no. And we had to come back and take a look at how to turn that no into a yes and change the value proposition. Hope we can get you back on video. Where's your video go?
I'm just trying to make sure that we don't lose you because of the signal.
No worries, all good, all good. So let's just take a moment because we have a little bit more time, and I want people to know, how can people best connect with you, follow you, and who is your ideal client, family member? So if someone's listening, they go, this is me, and then they connect with you, Karen.
Okay, so I guess my ideal client is probably an entrepreneur turning over probably about $500,000 US, UK. It's all about the same at the moment.
Yeah.
Who's gone so far in their business, they've got an established offer, they want to grow it, they want to take it to the next stage. I'm very good at going into businesses and looking at how someone can take it to the next level. So it's thinking through where's the growth opportunities, where's the products and services that they can develop, and how they can then sell those on, and teaching them and coaching them on how to sell them on and drive businesses through. As I say, a lot of my background is food. I'm passionate about the food industry. I love food, so food businesses definitely, and I have worked with some in the US, UK, main Europe, but other businesses as well, where they just need to be inspired to go out and sell better. Where can they find me? My website is morphing actually, but at the moment, if they go to foodmentor.co.uk, it will be the Karen Green, but I'm not sure how far we've got with that change. So we'll go with Food Mentor. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook. I am a massive fan of LinkedIn from a corporation point of view. So if they want to link in with me, that's the best place to find me. And yeah, put Karen Green Food Mentor in and I come up everywhere. Everything lights up.
Brilliant. Beautiful. So what is the number one problem or challenge that you would typically help someone with? So if someone's listening, what struggle, challenge, frustration do they typically have when they come to you, Karen?
I think most entrepreneurs cannot see the wood for the trees because of their personality. They have so many ideas and so many things they think they can do, and they can. And what they need to have is the help to say, look, this is the one. And it's not so trendy anymore to talk about making money, but I think, we all are in business. It's partly for love, and we do know our why, but actually we want to make money. And what they need to do is to have that focus. And that's what I do for people. I go in and I say, right, this is the area that's going to make you money. This is the area that's going to enable you maybe to do the things you want to do that maybe are not so financially rewarding, but this is the one that's in your business that will make the money, and I can help you do it. And then I put a 90-day program in place to help them do that. And then we go from there. And we've had some great successes. We've built factories, we've negotiated deals, we've sold millions. It's really exciting and it's really inspiring. So yes, please get in touch. I offer a half-hour discovery call. So it's on my website, just says book a coffee. So if you want to come along and have half an hour free chat, that's fine. And, you know, I work all hours. So wherever, I live in the south of France, so I'm on Central European time, but I'm around.
Beautiful. And would you give your website one more time before we end?
Yep, it's foodmentor.co.uk.
Great. .co.uk, gang. Write that down. Karen, you've been awesome. I've learned a lot. I've had fun. And thank you so much. You're definitely a heartrepreneur. And one of the things I really want to speak to before we conclude is I talk to entrepreneurs all the time and say something that people quote me on all the time, which is one focus, one goal. One focus, one goal. I find that as entrepreneurs, we have like a little bit of ADHD, maybe not diagnosed, but shiny object syndrome. It's, you know, oh, this looks interesting and that looks cool. And maybe I can go post here and be there. Even with social media, you know, find where your audience is. You don't need to post on every social media platform. Be at the one where your audience is and really speak on that one. So gang, take into heart what Karen has said. She's offered so much value. Connect with her. And then in closing out the show, I want you to take a moment, and I really do want you to think about what is your biggest business challenge or struggle or frustration. It's time to figure out what it is and then to get some help in overcoming it. Whether I can help you, whether Karen can help you, whether one of our other guests can help you. It's very important that you right now get some help. This is not a journey to do on your own. In my experience, and I've spent over $1 million in hiring coaches, consultants, mentors, and trainers, forget coursework, PhDs, and all of that stuff. The truth of the matter is entrepreneurship is not a journey to be on alone. You will make a lot of mistakes and you can spend a lot of money making them, or you can make fewer mistakes and you can actually learn and earn from someone else who's made them, been there, done that. So we invite you to connect with Karen, stay tuned here at Heartrepreneur Radio and TV, share the show. You know, if you're on a platform that can give reviews, we love our 5-star reviews, and then just subscribe to the show. So we thank you for tuning in. Thank Karen for being here, and we will see you again here at Heartrepreneur Radio and TV. Bye now.
You've been listening to Heartrepreneur Radio, maximizing your personal and business results by leading with your heart, with your host, Terri Levine. This show is produced every week for your enjoyment and education. To make sure you never miss a single show, add us to your favorite RSS feed or subscribe in iTunes. You can also read Terri's latest blog posts at www.heartrepreneur.com/blog, or follow Terri on Twitter at MentorTerri and on Facebook.com/Heartrepreneur Terri Levine. Your questions and comments are always welcome and appreciated. Send them to Terri on either Facebook or Twitter. Thank you for listening.